Hello? Hello? Is anybody out there? I can't see you. Let me try something. There you are. So nice to see everybody here today. As a creative coach and an entrepreneur, and I was an art teacher for over 20 years, what I know about breaking the mold is that creativity can be challenging for people. So what we're going to do is talk about how to unbox your creative power, right? To start with this, I want to ask you, think of a time when you had a great idea, or you had something you were passionate about, but people told you were weird. I think everybody has had this experience. And for me, I had this experience in school. When I was 12 years young, what happened was that some of the people who were in my school, they all said that as a female, I was not allowed to take technology shop or drafting class. Because I was a female, I had to take home economics, and that was sewing and cooking. Now, technology shop is where you get to build things with wood and plastic and metals. And I come from a family of wood carvers, so that's what I wanted to do. And they said no. So at this point, I had to make a decision. This is one of those moments in life where what you do changes who you are. My suggestions were this. I could either accept what was happening and the norm, and I mean unconditionally. That means that in 1 month I can't complain. Or I can try to challenge it and try to change the situation, to transform the policy. Or the third choice, which we all have and many people take, is that I could just try to avoid it, which is basically avoiding number 1 or 2. And we do this, denial, procrastination, forget about it. But that's not going to solve the situation. So at this point, I need to get some help. So what I did was I went to my teachers and I asked them for feedback. And I went to my family. And I talked to some of my friends too, and one of my friends was a little boy who was 1 grade behind me. And he said, I want to take cooking next year. And I knew that if this policy stayed in place, there was no way he was going to be able to take that class. So when my mom said, what do you want to do? Can you accept this? I said, no, I want to change it. And something amazing happened. I went to my teacher and she said, let me show you how to write a petition. To write a petition, you write the statement, and every person has to write it out, and they write their name and their signature. And then she said, if you get 50 signatures, I'll sign it. She gave me such a gift. That day, I had new possibilities and options to empower myself to solve the problem. It gave me hope. And then I had motivation to get those signatures. And I needed that motivation because what happened was a lot of students pushed back. I had boys and girls saying, you're a girl, you should do this. I had some who refused to sign the petition. I had some teachers who refused to sign it. I even had one boy who looked at the petition and ripped it up, and I had to make a new one. But I didn't let them stop me. So I went on and got more signatures, and teachers heard about the ripping up of the petition. So you know what they did? Teachers started finding me to sign the petition. And they were taking a risk because they knew that their bosses were going to see it. And when their bosses saw that, they knew that they were supporting a change. And I was so thankful for that it gave me the strength to turn the petition into the office. Now, when I showed up with the petition, it caused quite a stir. The principal called me in his office, and he said, why do you want to do this? And we had a debate. I went home, and that night, he called my mom. And he said, your daughter is causing a disruption in school. And she was surprised because I had never been in trouble in school before. So she said, why? And he said, she wants to take this class, but she's a girl, she's not allowed. And that didn't make sense. So then she said, well, why can't she? And then he used the excuse that so many people use against innovation and creatives. They said, well, it's always been a rule. That's always how it's been done. And my mom said, I understand, but my husband, her father, owns a construction company, and she's been building houses since she was 5. But if there's a problem, I can have my lawyers call. Now, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have lawyers, but it worked. And I was the first person in the history of my school to be able to take drafting and technology shop. This is what got me labeled as an out-of-the-box thinker. And I was like, what does that even mean? We use this all the time. So it comes from 2 different things, we think. One is this. This test is supposed to be to figure out your divergent thinking. It's called the 9-dot test. Try to do it. 4 lines or less, and you cannot lift. You can't go like this and this. You have to go all one. Good, try it. You can use your fingers because it looks fun. So spoiler alert, it's a little tough because you literally need to go out of the box to solve it. That is out of the box thinking. Another man named Mike Vance worked for Disney, and he wrote a book in the 90s called Think Outside the Box. And this made the term solid in the English language. And now it's become almost a cliche for problem solving and creativity. And we love our boxes. We love the boxes that come from our online orders. We love the boxes that people give us, the labels. You know, you are this, you are that. We love the labels we create and the boxes we create in our heads, our beliefs, our norms, our mindsets. And so it's very difficult to get beyond these boxes. We get comfortable and cozy with these boxes. They bring us comfort. They make us feel like we're in control. They make us feel stable in a world that is crazy and going chaos every day. So we are now getting stuck in these boxes. And some of us, we have boxes that are normal, like borders, boundaries, what we will and will not accept. But sometimes we take it too far. We reinforce those walls, and we make them harder and harder to get past until those boxes almost become like a prison. And this is when the box becomes blocks. Because those boxes now are limiting you instead of helping you. And we have to find ways to move past that. Because otherwise, we stay in a comfort zone. The comfort zone is a box. But look carefully, because learning and growth do not come without fear. Take that in. So if we put up these boxes and we stay inside of them, we will not learn and grow the way that we need to. We also have conformity bias. Conformity bias is when you change your beliefs or your behavior to fit in. And this can be a problem because it can make us fearful of the judgment if we don't fit in. And when we're afraid of judgment, we are more afraid to fail. And when we have fear, that is the #1 killer of creativity. Now, I know this is scary, because when you do something creative or different, you're going to stand out. People are going to see you. And there's this phenomenon called the Talus poppy syndrome. This is what happens when you have a whole garden and one flower sticks up and it doesn't look even, so people want to cut it. Like people, same thing. You stand up and then people want to cut you down. This is a problem that we have universally, and it's stopping us from being creative risk takers and doing the innovation that we are capable of. And most of us are sunflowers. Innovators have faced resistance for centuries. You have people like Coco Chanel, Steve Jobs, Igor Stravinsky. Anywhere in any discipline, there have been innovators and they faced resistance because creativity means change, and change is difficult. And people are comfortable in their box, so they don't want that change. And if they have fear, they will resist the person who is trying to creatively bring change. And you have to remember that people have worked really hard to make these boxes. They have worked really hard, including us, to make these separations. But the cost is high. We now currently globally have a creativity crisis. And this is coming at a time when we need creativity the most. These boxes were never meant to define us. They were never meant to confine us. They were meant as a block, a baseline that we could go off of to align us. And instead, they're dividing us. We need to use these boxes for inspiration, not isolation. Because if you get these boxes so tight, then you push people away. You use judgment. And when you judge somebody, you're not being empathetic. And if you are judging, you are separating yourself from that person, and this causes loneliness, which is why loneliness is one of the biggest problems we have in the world today. We cannot solve the problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them. This means that to go outside the box, you have to let go of the box. You can't just take a box and just look at it differently. If you decorate it, this is not thinking outside of the box. You're just decorating it. Hiding it is also not thinking outside of the box either. So we need to let go and change the way that we're thinking. We have to think differently because right now, we have some of the most complex problems in the history of the world, and it is going to take creativity to solve them. So how are we going to do this? We need to go from worrying about validation from other people for these boxes and go from personal voice and authentic expression. If we can do this, we can change our perspective. We can change and shift the way that we are looking at things and open up ourselves to being okay with that creative risk. We need to build places where people can feel safe to fail so that they can be safe to succeed. One of the ways we can do this is to create a culture of creativity. Pixar and Google have this. They've been using it for years, but it's not enough. We need cultures of creativity in our schools. We need it in our lives. We need it in our homes, our neighborhoods, globally, because we need creativity from every direction. So now, think back to that time when you were told that you were weird, right? How did that make you feel? For me, I have to tell you that I'm so glad that I thought outside the box and that I got those classes because I went on to use drafting and architecture to create spaces for business. I became a metalsmith on the side. I taught visual art and taught people how to build things. And a couple of years ago, when the women's rights movement came up in the world, I posted this story on my social media. And people who I had gone to school with, they said, "Thank you. I remember that you did this. And because you did this, I was able to take the classes I wanted, not because of my gender, but because of my purpose and my passion." This is the power of creativity for transformation in the world. This is what we need more of. And when we start looking at all the possibilities and the options, we see there's really no box at all. The boxes are the ones that we choose to keep in our minds. So I'm going to challenge you today. I'm going to challenge you to unbox your thinking. I want each of you today to go out and try one thing that's really different, unique. And when somebody says you're weird, I want you to say, thank you. Because this world needs you to reclaim your creative power. We will not solve these problems in the world without your help. The world needs you. We need you. And if you look at the box differently, and you really look at it, you can transform that box and create something different. I want all of you to not worry anymore about being a poppy. I want you to become the sunflower. So my call to you is, don't conform, transform. Thank you.